Welcome to Real People, Real Matters with Diana Tulchinsky. My first guest is Steve Dom, owner of Activation Fitness in Glenview. Steve, please tell me about your earlier life in Vermont.
It was hard work, but it was a good experience and kind of taught me a lot of life lessons for later on, as far as working hard. And my dad started his business, dairy farm, with basically, they were immigrants from the Netherlands and basically had a couple $100 in their pocket and worked, saved up money and started his own business and was quite successful with that.
Yes.
So taught me a lot of things, and my dad helped me kind of get my business started as well.
And then do they have high school or college back then in the baby boomer generation? Or
No, my parents grew up more during World War II in Europe, and they basically only went through 6th grade and then just did some, learning on the job and stuff.
Oh, very impressive. And how was the nutrition growing up in a farm? Was whole foods? Do you have processed foods, later in the TV generation growing up, or?
Yeah, we mostly had a lot of whole food, and my mom went to the grocery store pretty much every day or every other day, and so it was more the European style of eating, which is, I guess, is still more like that there as well now.
And then, around 18, where did you apply to go to university and start your own life and your own career?
I went to Anderson University. It's a small private school in Indiana. They had a good athletic training program there, and that's kind of, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but that seemed to be the direction that I was going.
And then were you involved in any college sports or any athletic or any marathon running around that time?
No, I was never a distance runner. My wife actually runs marathons and stuff, has done a lot of that. But I played a lot of basketball in high school. I was a pretty good high school basketball player, but in college I just focused. As an athletic training major, you were pretty focused. You were working with sports all the time, so it was pretty hard to play a sport as well. But I still played a lot of intramural basketball and softball and stuff like that.
Did you have a scholarship or anything, or just your parents helped you out and invest in your education?
I had some academic scholarships a little bit, and then I took some loans, and my parents helped out a lot too.
Very nice. And then did you go to graduate school? Did you want to go to physical therapy, but someone persuaded you out of that?
Well, I kind of persuaded myself out of that. I was going to go in pre-physical therapy for a while. And it's a great profession. Just wasn't. It was a little too much a little too much sitting sometimes for me. Not necessarily sitting, but it's different. What I found with physical therapy, a lot of times you do a lot of work, depending on the setting, but you do a lot of work with workman's comp and stuff like that. A lot of times the people don't necessarily want to be there, so I end up going more into the, later on into more of the personal training, because you're working with clients that, that really want to be there typically. So after I decided I didn't want to go into physical therapy school, I ended up getting a master's in athletic training. Well, I started in a master's in athletic training at University of Florida.
Yes.
But then I ended up transferring to Northern Illinois University and ended up with a master's in sport management there.
Do you have any advice for college graduates or trying to get into a graduate school? Does it open doors or does it really do anything?
As far as, I'm sorry,
the first job of landing outside the bachelor and the first internship.
Oh, as far as the master's?
Yes.
It just totally depends on which career you're going into and what your specific goals are. For me, my excuse me, my master's really, it gave me some good, learning experience and stuff like that. But as far as my actual career, I don't think it really changed that too much. But it depends on the job. Some jobs require a master's, and it's a big help.
Oh, and what was your first job after Northern Illinois?
I worked for Crystal Lake Orthopedics, and they contracted us out to a high school as the athletic trainer, and worked as the full-time athletic trainer at Johnsburg High School, which is up near McHenry in Illinois, and worked during the day. We would work usually 3 days a week in the orthopedic clinic, and worked essentially as an orthopedic assistant there.
And then did you work with Down syndrome, the special needs population, the earlier years?
Some, mostly just I had one client for 4 or 5 years who was like probably when he was maybe, I guess, 17 to 20-ish, that age, and worked with him regularly, and just it was a real joy working with him. Just a wonderful kid.
And how did you meet your wife, Christina?
Oh, how did I meet? I met her actually in a weight room, ironically. She was just graduated from college and was supervising the weight room at Johnsburg High School, and I just started working there as the athletic trainer just during the summer, because that's the school where she graduated from.
How did you get from orthopedic assistant to fitness trainer?
It was actually kind of a process. I worked 6 months as in kind of a tech for a rehab equipment, and just really wasn't working out too well. Just wasn't a good fit and that was kind of in between the two careers. So I had done some personal training on the side and kind of needed to essentially pay some bills and figure out what I wanted to do. And so I started doing some personal training, and it went really well and built up clients quickly. So I just kind of stayed in that and kept going.
Why are you called the Muscle Whisperer?
I don't know, but they put that in the one article from and it's I prefer, the title was actually Muscle Mechanic, which I prefer a little better. Muscle Whisperer is a little odd, but Muscle Mechanic, Muscle Whisperer, because what we do is we use what's called muscle activation. It's just a tool that we use, a technique to figure out essentially where your body has some weaknesses, some weak links, and some limitations, and try and address those very specifically, and try to find those muscles that are not active, that aren't doing their job as well, and it just creates these compensations. And if you address those compensations first, then your body can be more efficient and have essentially more muscles to draw from, more muscles working effectively.
How long were you studying the muscle activation techniques in the body? Like, give me some examples.
Well, it's basically a 2-year process of going through. Majority of it was over 10 months, and it's 25 full days of study in Chicago. It's based out of Denver. A lot of professional athletes use muscle activation there. Actually, Peyton Manning has been one of his main sources of rehab when he started after he had all his neck surgeries, and he continued on to have a successful career till close to 40, until age eventually, kind of caught up to him. But personally, I got into it because I had 15 plus years of chronic back issues and a lot of neck issues and a lot of sciatic type pain, to where my flexibility was just getting horrible, and I was doing a lot of stretching, static stretching, traditional stretching, and it just, over time, I was living on a lot of medicine, not like high level medicine, but just a lot of ibuprofen and stuff like that. So I got into it because somebody showed me, kind of explained it to me a little bit, and gave me a little demonstration and showed me how I didn't have any mobility in one of my hips. Particularly, and when I started doing some isometrics, it's called, where you, instead of doing a stretch, you just kind of push.
Resistance. You resist your body.
You push into something that doesn't move, like into a wall, and just try to, in those positions, get the muscles to be able to contract better. And then I started to get my hip to be able to move better, which took a lot of stress off my back, and a good 70-80% of my pain that I've been having went away. So it motivated me to want to learn more, and I've been doing this for 8 years, and I feel like I'm still getting better every year. My setbacks are very few and far between, and I'm actually stronger now at 42 than I was at 20, and I have more flexibility now than when I was at 20, and I haven't done a traditional stretch in 8 years. We just work the muscles through the whole range of motion, not just with the muscle activation, but then we take them into the weight room, or take myself into the weight room, and use what's a lot of the other program we go through is called resistance training specialist. Yeah, resistance training specialist, which is taught by a physical therapist in Oklahoma City, and where we really learn to apply force to the body effectively, and learn how to use the equipment and cables, and just to be able to strengthen the muscle through the whole range of motion, so it's much more effective and long-lasting than traditional stretching.
Do you palpitate the muscle and then you do the resistance of going?
Palpate, yeah.
Palpate.
We use that some. It's one of the part of the technique to try and get the muscle to activate a little bit. It's more of kind of the introductory part of it, just to stimulate it, get things going a little bit. But then we progress pretty quickly into isometrics, and then start to do some more resistance and even manual resistance, and then also, like I said, with getting on the equipment. And so it's a progression of starting out real low on some of these muscles that aren't able to contract very well, and then get them to contract more and more until they can hopefully do their job very well.
And what groups of muscles are easily formed and not easily formed, like the back, the hamstrings, the humerus? What muscles do you focus on, like the larger or the smaller at first?
We work on all of them, and it kind of depends on where their main weaknesses are. Some people will they get a back pain, and we end up working on their foot mostly because their foot's not hitting the ground in the right position.
Okay, the family of.
But we work on basically every muscle and every main skeletal muscle in the body, or from neck muscles down to toe muscles. So it completely varies. But the common areas though we see are a lot of the back muscles, a lot of the scapula muscles from a lot of times sitting at the desk a lot, and
posture, the
postural muscles. So there's certain areas that we work on probably more so than others.
How are the exercises different from like chiropractic, where they do the release and then they do acupressure? How is muscle activation?
There's a lot of different techniques out there, different ways. Sometimes they have the same goal, but ours is pretty unique. The way we look at the body, and it's essentially looking at the body is that the muscles aren't necessarily tight, because typically we want to stretch muscles or release muscles, and there may be some benefit to that, but we look more on, if you want to say, on the other side of the axis of motion, that we want to work on the muscles that are, if you have trouble, say, raising your arm up and you can't get the arm up there, instead of saying that the muscles on one side are tight, we try and work on the muscles that are bringing the arm up, and really try to focus on those, and so essentially it helps you to have better control of your motion and better able to absorb the forces of life from activities and different things that you do.
Do you have any clients, usually the baby boomer, like the 50s, 60s, that just really needs to exercise, or they had problems with their old fitness trainer, like they overdid it, and then they had that weekend, exercise, and then on Monday they're exhausted? Do you have any people that came to you?
Oh yeah, that's probably one of the main parts of our business, is people who are kind of frustrated with some of the stuff. Their body's not working as well as it was before, and maybe they went out and did too much, and their body couldn't absorb those forces, kind of like I was talking about, couldn't handle that, so then they end up with an injury. So what we do is just try to build their body up, make it stronger so they can handle some of those things. And also sometimes the other part of that is sometimes teaching them where they have some issues going on, and where they may need to, even if we do make them better, they still have to realize that they can't do some of the things they used to, and just be smarter about, understand their body, kind of have a better body awareness, and realize what can and cannot do.
Is there a chemistry between the fitness trainer and the client that's needed?
Oh yeah, that's hugely important. And we have several trainers at the studio, so we try to figure out which trainer is going to work best with that client. And sometimes they have to even switch trainers, because it's just not a good chemistry. And so it's real important. We do a lot of history evaluation and kind of go in depth to figure out how we can best meet that client's need.
And then, do you have any success stories with people that are very obese and just dropped it?
No. We've got a couple. We really don't work with that population tremendously. I think the most important part of losing a lot of weight is diet. I mean, exercise is going to be a huge component of that, but the most important part is going to be diet, and we definitely don't claim to be nutritionists. We'll give some nutrition advice, but I worked with one client who he also worked a lot with a nutritionist and did some other work, but he really worked hard, and he just out of college, and his weight had fluctuated a lot, and he was up to, I think, 280.
80.
and
That's a lot.
and he was fairly short too. He was like 5'7".
Oh, that is a
So,
lot
but
of
he's down. He's consistently. I haven't really worked with him too much in a while, but he's I keep in touch with him, and he's kept it down to, I think he's in the 160s, 150s, and lost over 100 pounds.
Did his parents support him and the family intervention? And,
yeah, a lot. Yeah. His mom and his dad just really supported him, a great deal, and really wanted to see him be healthy again.
Is it like, do you ever see like the college students pack on the weights? Like the freshman, sophomore, and they just can't control the eating.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he was a perfect example of that. And actually, I remember my freshman year of college. Actually, one semester, the first semester I had like a jog walk class, and I kept the weight off. But the second semester, I put on over 30 pounds. I think.
30 that's a lot. So
I just went from being a very active kid playing basketball and working on the farm and eating healthy to eating really a bunch of crap and not doing really focus on my grades and not working out at all. But fortunately, I went back to the farm over the summer and pretty much lost all of it over the summer.
Oh, that's a nice, inspiring story. Yeah. Do you have any experience with the quadriplegic or like the handicap when someone can function and they need like adjustments?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially myself, I've done a little bit of work with a couple of those clients, but some of actually Sean True, one of the trainers who works with me, has done pretty extensive amount of work with some of that population. And one of our clients, there's actually a pretty cool short video on our website, activationfitness.com, where he works with Mark Steffen, who's a full quadriplegic from the neck down, has no sensation, but the guy's done a lot of work also at the RIC downtown, and he's actually biked across the entire country to raise money for the RIC, and he drives now, and he's very, very strong. It's pretty amazing.
Did he have a car accident, or how did that happen?
His was a bicycle accident where the front wheel popped off, and he was actually an Ironman before the accident, and his front wheel popped off, and he hit his head and fractured, I think, the C6, C7 vertebrae.
And then, do you see any of your clients long term, or like what's so long as like for a decade or more?
Yeah, I mean, I have quite a few clients. I started personal training full time. I don't know, over 12, 13 years ago, I guess now, and I have a handful of 5, 6 clients from that pretty much first year that I started. So it's.
What is their normal weekly routine? Do you plan out?
We really evaluate each time they come in how they're doing, and when you're working someone that long, it's really, you're not really trying to increase their strength dramatically anymore by any means, or weight loss. You've kind of got them on a maintenance program, and you've got to keep them strong. But we're always evaluating every time they come in how they're feeling, if there's any specific areas they're having some weakness or some pain, and trying to work on those. So it's really take it very individual, and every time they come in, work on it a little bit different.
And is there any stories? I know there's one YouTube where a guy was training for the Bears. Do you have any professional athletes to come your?
No, unfortunately, we'd like to get some more professional athletes, and the technique we use is used by a lot of professional athletes. But quite a few of them that I know that use the technique. See some people in Chicago, just kind of works better for them. But I've worked with Bill Cartwright and some of his family, and obviously people know basketball, played for the Bulls championship series and teams and stuff like that. And we've worked with quite a few high level. Distance runners, like triathletes, that type of stuff, but not people that not household names, but a lot of high-level athletes. So.
And do you recommend for anyone to stop jogging? I know jogging and running is important, but do you ever recommend for them to slow down in that process?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's another thing that's very individual. Running itself can be very good for the body. It just kind of depends on how your mechanics are and how well your body distributes the forces that you're putting on it. And if running is too much because of some past ankle injuries and knee injuries and stuff like that, though, it's going to end up leading to early arthritis if your body can't absorb those forces very well. So for those people, we definitely recommend maybe they try swimming, or maybe using different. Yeah, but at the same time, you still want you still need some good impact. The impact is actually good for your joints. It needs that. That's how our body, if we go into outer space and have no gravity, they come back with a lot of osteoporosis, that type of stuff. We need gravity. It's just finding ways to do it where it's kind of finding that fine line of a good amount of force without being excessive.
And then how do you like these diets are coming up, like the green food industry, like the superfoods and like the paleo? Do you ever see like where like the diet explosion went too far in a lot of the clients?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't get into the diet nutrition side as much, but I definitely see people getting excessive on a lot of that. It's just in general, our society tends to be excessive when it comes to exercise and diet. So
Yes.
I'm a big believer, unless you have a specific allergy to food, and canned is really about moderation and about a variety of good whole foods.
And then do you see any like anyone in maternity or like postpartum or anyone else that just wants to lose that 30 pounds, or do you ever work with moms? And
Yeah, we work with quite a few moms. That's a big part of our clientele. Not typically, right after they have a baby, occasionally, but more so the ones that are in their 40s or whatever, and they're just really want to get back to being more active. And after they've went through these, having years of having kids, they want to get back to enjoying exercise themselves.
what was your deciding point to open up a business versus being like a fitness trainer at 5 Seasons? Like, what was that? I want to be in business for myself.
I just needed a change. I was at 5 Seasons for 5+ years, and managed a fitness center. I was personal training, but then I went down the road of muscle activation and going through all the certification process of that, which was a lot of time, a lot of money, and I don't know. I just felt it was time to just try something new and try to go out on my own and see what I could do.
And then, is there like any reason why you didn't want to go athletic training for universities or colleges? Is there any reason why you changed your field a couple of times?
It was a good job for a while. It just, after a while, is the burnout in athletic training tends to be fairly high. There's just partly because the hours are, it's not so much the amount of hours, but it's a lot of late night hours working with the sports teams, and this inconsistent hours. You never knew from week to week which nights you were working late. And to be honest with you, the pay was pretty tough. It didn't start out horrible. There was just no way to really move up at all. So it was just, I needed to figure out a way to support my family a little better and be home in the evening sometimes.
In the high school years, like, did you focus on chemistry, biology, kinesiology, anatomy? Like,
high school?
In high school, or like, how was your science, like, education, to give you that emphasis?
I really didn't. I mean, I took a lot of college prep classes and stuff like that, but it was a small school in Vermont. We didn't have a lot of, high level, classes as far as that, or a lot of direction. So I did my best to learn the anatomy and things like that, but I learned most of my things in college for that.
Why did you open up your studio in the Glen versus Winnetka or anywhere else in the North Shore?
Well, I used to work in Northbrook, and I wanted to stay generally fairly close to that. And Glenview was a great town. I just had a good feel there. I liked it a lot, and so just found a place that worked well for me there.
Do you have any fun stories about homeschooling your kids, or
Oh, yeah.
what was that option about?
That was my wife's idea, but which I was supportive of, and she was a teacher actually at Johnsonburg High School for 10 years or so, and just then we had 3 kids in less than 4 years, and just really didn't want to put them in daycare when it was going to be basically her whole salary. So she just started staying home with the kids, and then she started kind of learning about some of the homeschooling stuff, and just didn't really want to go back to teach other kids, so she just wanted to kind of work with our kids, and it's been going fairly well. We intend to put them in school at some point, definitely by high school, but kind of see where that goes.
How do you like the clientele and the traffic in Glenview, or do you see any interesting high school students or anyone come by, or how do you like the traffic sent around the industrial area of Glenview?
It's fine. I mean, my type of business is not usually driven by drive-bys or walk-bys. We get a handful of those, but it's pretty much all word of mouth, and we work with one, end up working with somebody. We end up working with their spouse and their kids and that type of stuff. So, so the traffic's been there's plenty of people around, and that's been good.
Do you have travel plans around the world, or do you have any travel plans now?
Yeah, we're actually going back to the Netherlands, where my parents passed away a couple of years ago, and then so I have a lot of family out there. So I haven't been there since I was 3. So my whole family is going to go visit family out there in, next spring.
And do you have endeavors to expand your studio, or?
Yeah, we'll see. I just take it, day by day and year by year, and kind of see where we go. I don't have employees. I have independent contractors, and that's been going real well. I don't really plan to get real big, but if I get some good, several, we're pretty stay busy, and but we're not there's not overcrowded right now. But if I get a couple more good trainers that come on board and we need more space, then we'll expand.
Thank you, Steve, for this conversation.
No, thank you, Diana. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for watching Real People, Real Matters with Diana Tulchinsky. Please watch us again.